Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Kerr, contributing editor for GoldDerby.com. I'm here with user Alex Meyer, and today we'll be discussing our predictions for the SAG Awards, starting with the film categories now. And this is an interesting year because this is probably the first time in at least a while, or maybe even ever, that the winners of SAG will be revealed before Oscar nominations are announced.
But that's probably mainly due to the fact that this year there's a Winter Olympics going on. And whenever there's a Winter Olympics, all the awards either are pushed back or pushed forward from their normal schedule.
Yeah, so in any case, we'll be going over the 6 film categories at SAG. And of course, we'll be starting with Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. And I'll start by reading off the nominees. And they are The Big Sick, Get Out, Lady Bird, Mudbound, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So, and as we each take turns reading off nominees, then we'll pass it to the other to read off their current rankings. So, what's your current rankings and your predictions?
Okay. Now, before I read my rankings, I just want to say the reason why I'm not on camera today is for some reason my camera isn't really working all that well. I have a webcam built directly into my computer, but for some reason it won't show my face. So I had to turn it off. So Google Hangout is always a weird place, always doing weird stuff. I've had other people experience similar problems before. All right. So my rankings right now are 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri in first place, Get Out in second, Lady Bird in third, Mudbound in fourth, and The Big Sick in fifth.
Okay, I have 3 out of those 5 same rankings, though, because the only difference, I have Lady Bird in second and Get Out in third, though I actually have been feeling tempted to move Get Out up a notch because, well, I mean, of course, Marcus Dixon, who's one of the main editors at Gold Derby, he's predicting Get Out to win, and he, of course, famously was probably the only person on the planet who correctly predicted Hidden Figures would win this category last year, and he's applying some of that same logic in, well, he's applying some of that same logic into, well, this year in his prediction of Get Out. And that's, well, it's the most successful, commercially successful film out of all the nominees.
Mm-hmm. But there's also a tendency for films that maybe aren't necessarily the most commercially successful, but have the most prestige attached to them that still end up winning this award, like Birdman or Spotlight being 2 perfect examples.
Right. And of course, The Help is, The Help is also another example of the most commercially successful film winning. Yes. And like I said, I am tempted. And of course, and also in Marcus's arguments is that even though Jordan Peele is not in the film, he only produced, wrote, and directed Get Out. I mean, he's still, a major face of that, involved with that film. And of course, SAG nominated him before, even him and Keegan-Michael Key for a comedy ensemble, despite the fact there was only 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. But usually in the past, though, the winner of this category is often part of a pretty big ensemble. And when you look at the ensemble of 3 Billboards versus Get Out, 3 Billboards has the bigger ensemble, whereas
Right.
Get Out, a good chunk of it is, Daniel Kaluuya being front and center, and then everyone else being the supporting cast, whereas in 3 Billboards, there's a wide range of cast members in there who each have a wide variety of different roles. And while Frances McDormand is certainly the star, it's not like it's only on her the whole time.
Well, yes, not to mention it also has, movie stars like her, Sam Rockwell, and Woody Harrelson, and TV stars like Harrelson and Peter Dinklage.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so you got and star power certainly helps with a lot of these wins, with like American Hustle, where you had Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Jennifer Lawrence, Bradley Cooper, and Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, that's why I do have 3 Billboards out front, as well as the fact that probably is the biggest acting showcase of the nominees, whereas I don't see something like Get Out, well, fitting that mold, nor The Big Sick, which is why I do have it in last place, as well as the fact that a lot of us probably weren't even expecting it to get recognized there.
No, I definitely wasn't expecting it to be nominated there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I said, my current rankings are 3 Billboards, Lady Bird, Get Out, Mudbound, and Big Sick, though I am tempted to move Get Out up to second.
I was flip-flopping back and forth between the two, but I ultimately stuck with 3 Billboards because I figured since it has chances to win a lot of other awards, I could very well see it becoming part of like a big sweep throughout the night.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, absolutely. Well. Yeah, so I guess now on to the next category, which is Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor, or in this case, Actress, in a Leading Role.
All right, and the nominees are Judi Dench, Victoria and Abdul, Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Margot Robbie, I, Tonya, and Saoirse Ronan, Lady Bird.
Okay, so my current rankings as follow. I have Frances McDormand in first place. I think, it seems to be the most, well, I guess the most SAG thing to do. She's the veteran actress. There are a couple other veterans in here like Judi Dench, but she's the acting veteran. Gives the bigger performance, and she's in a film that really has been overperforming at some of the other awards groups. Granted, this will be, this ends PGA, which takes place tomorrow, will be our first introduction into what the industry's saying. But yeah, I think McDormand, she's a solid choice, a safe bet to predict here. And yeah, no, Saoirse Ronan, who I do have in second place, and Sally Hawkins in third, Margot Robbie in fourth, and Judi Dench in fifth. And I will say that if someone else wins, then we really might get, I guess, a much more questionable race for Best Actress than we already have. But if Frances wins, as I'm predicting, then yeah, I say she's definitely safer to predict for the Oscars.
Mm-hmm. I pretty much have most of the same rankings, except I have first place, but then I have Sally Hawkins in second and Saoirse Ronan in third, and then Margot Robbie and Judi Dench in fourth and fifth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so explain to me, explain to me your decisions for second and third.
Well, I figure that voters who might have been surprised by The Shape of Water underperforming in terms of overall nominations, because while it did get nominations for
her and Richard Jenkins.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I was just pausing because I saw this little thing in the bottom of my corner that I think it's my little camera logo thing. I might be able to turn it on now. Hold on a sec.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see if it works. Oh, nope.
No. So I guess back to the discussion.
So I think voters who might have been surprised to see it only be nominated for Sally Hawkins and Richard Jenkins and not also Octavia Spencer and the ensemble, they might be rallied to root for her and possibly, I don't think she's going to win, but, people from those who've seen The Shape of Water, they seem to really, really love it. And when you have a strong, passionate fan base for a film, that can really help increase its chances of winning.
Well, yeah, but then again, we were, of course, in an interesting scenario last year where La La Land did not get a SAG Ensemble nomination, and only Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone were nominated. And, of course, people were predicting Emma to win this category because, La La Land was not up for Ensemble, so they wanted to give it love, since a lot of us were expecting it to be like the big juggernaut of last year's Oscars. But then again, as it turned out by the official end of last year's Oscar telecast, that the industry was not as crazy as La La Land as we all thought.
No, but it still ended up winning 6 Oscars, though, which is a pretty big haul, especially for a film that doesn't win Best Picture.
Well, yes, but still, Yeah, but I have Saoirse in second, well, ranked higher up, mainly because, well, Lady Bird also has the ensemble nominations, and not that you need to have your film nominated for ensemble to win an individual award, but it does help. Plus if she does win, it could, well, I guess might as well be a sign that they're into the ingenue and Best Actress, like we saw with Emma last year and Brie Larson the year before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have her ranked slightly lower just because I could potentially see some backlash for Lady Bird because I could see how well I like the movie a lot and I know a lot of other people do. I could see how some people might view it as maybe just another movie about a teenager complaining about their life, basically.
Well, yeah, and though I'm not.
Whereas whereas
I'm
the
sorry.
shape of water, that I could see how that may have more appeal to some because it takes people from several groups of life that have been victimized and disenfranchised throughout history, and it gives each of them a chance to shine during a time when they would not have been allowed to shine. Because since it's set in the 1960s, and you have characters including a mute white woman, an old gay white man, and an African American woman, the fact that they're not reduced to stereotypes and cliches really shows the strength of the movie and allows for something that you rarely see in a movie set in the 1960s and having those groups of people be displayed on screen. So I could see how some voters may want to rally behind that, you know, because
Hmm.
and plus the concept of the movie is quite unique in of itself. So I mean, I think this is Frances McDormand's to lose. I mean, if voters had been debating over who to vote for before the Golden Globes, then I'm pretty sure after the Globes and they saw her speech, they probably were racing to check her off on their ballots.
Well, yes, though, though, though. Hmm. Well, yes, you've made some good points there. Though, then again, I mean, I guess, I guess the only other thing I could say is if they want to go for someone else, that I guess since even though Lady Bird might just be another movie about teenager complaining about life, I'm not sure anyone who's played that sort of character has ever actually won, at least at SAG. So I mean, I guess that would be a first. But yeah, I agree. I say Francis is ahead here.
Plus, Sally Hawkins, she speaks practically no dialogue throughout the entire movies,
Hmm.
and that kind of performance always gets a lot of attention, and it can be a key to winning. We've seen a lot of performances that are very unusual, whether they don't speak or don't do anything that we would consider normal acting, that can often increase your chances of winning.
Right, and I guess the fact that Sally wasn't able to win a Globe. Well, I mean, I guess my another excuse I have for placing Saoirse in second is because of I guess the recent Golden Globe win on the comedy side. But yeah, I guess now moving on to the next category, which is outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role. The nominees are Timothy Chalamet, Call Me by Your Name. James Franco, The Disaster Artist, Daniel Kaluuya, Get Out, Gary Oldman, Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel, Esquire. So, what are your rankings?
I have Gary Oldman in first place, Timothy Chalamet in second, Daniel Kaluuya in third, James Franco in fourth, and Denzel Washington in fifth.
Ah, first rankings we got to this chat that we were pretty much 5 for 5 on agreement here.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
if the sexual harassment allegations against James Franco had not come out when they did, I probably would have ranked him higher based in part on his Golden Globe win. But, now that the allegations have come out and there's enough time for voters to change their minds about voting for him, that's why I ranked him as low as I did. And I didn't
Well,
necessarily rank him last because people expected him to be nominated here, and Denzel Washington was kind of seen as a surprise, given that Roman J. Israel Esquire has only been getting mixed reviews from critics.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Plus, a lot of us also expected Daniel Day-Lewis and Tom Hanks to make the cut here, but apparently their films weren't able to screen in time for SAG voters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, the same scenario a couple years ago with The Wolf of Wall Street that got no SAG nominations at all, probably because I'm guessing not enough voters saw it in time, but then it rebounded big time at the Oscars.
Yeah, I believe it was same with American Sniper.
Right, yeah, yeah, that got like virtually no precursor nominations, but then, you know,
Yeah, rebounded at SAG. Oh, well, at the Oscars.
hmm
Yes, and yes, with as for yeah, I think Gary Oldman is definitely has a great shot at this, given that well, not only he was able to overcome his past criticisms of the Globes and won there. He won Critics' Choice, and I think he's really well he's if he still manages to win SAG as expected, then he's clearly on the train to the Oscar, especially since well he's the actor's actor here who's pretty much worked with a lot of SAG members. I guess that's all same could also be said for Frances McDormand in her category. So yeah, I'd say Gary, oh, well, is a near lock here.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I guess some people believe Timothy Chalamet possibly could pull an upset win, but Call Me by Your Name hasn't been as strong of an awards contender throughout this awards season as many people thought it would be.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, it underperformed here. It did not get an ensemble nomination. And Chalamet is the only nomination here. Call Me by Your Name didn't get in for ensemble. It didn't get any of its supporting men into supporting actor.
yeah.
So
So, yeah, I mean, I think this is probably one of the easiest categories of the night, just given the track record we've seen so far, and the fact that Gary Oldman's playing Winston Churchill certainly can't hurt him either.
oh yeah,
And
because the SAG
we
just
saw that
awarded.
last year with John Lithgow winning for The Crown.
Yeah, I was
Even
about to say that.
plus, I mean, in a world where Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are two of the biggest leaders in the world, and they're not necessarily great leaders, I could see how voters may want to reward the performance to showcase what true leadership looks like.
Absolutely. So now on to outstanding performance by a female actor, or in this case, actress in a supporting role. The nominees are
All right, Mary J. Blige, Mudbound, Hong Chow, Downsizing, Holly Hunter, The Big Sick, Allison Janney, I, Tanya, and Laurie Metcalf, Ladybird.
okay. This is probably going to be well. I mean, the supporting races are probably going to be the most interesting to watch because, well, okay, a lot of us had different preconceived notions about who would win the supporting categories early on, which were, well, but of course, Critics' Choice and Golden Globes disagreed with those notions and went for someone else. And I actually recently wrote an article on Gold Derby that was published yesterday on why Laurie Metcalf shouldn't give up yet, and I do. And by the way, as for my rankings itself, I actually do have Metcalf in first place, even though I am weary of Allison Janney, who is in second and has been, well, building momentum at the Critics Awards, and well, has been doing more campaigns than Metcalf. I mean, I guess probably since Metcalf's been busy with shooting the upcoming Return of Roseanne. And for third place, I have Mary J. Blige for Mudbound. Fourth place, Holly Hunter, and fifth place, Hong Chow.
I have the same bottom three rankings, except I have Allison Janney in first place and Laurie Metcalf in second.
Well, that's understandable because, like I said, if in fact, as I mentioned in the article I was talking about, that if Janney wins SAG, then it's probably almost a done deal for her. Though if Metcalf wins, then the race isn't over yet. I mean, they both have. I guess there's pros and cons to both ladies there. Like Janney obviously gives the bigger performance, while Metcalf has the more heartfelt performance, and not to mention they're both TV stars who've probably worked with a lot of SAG members.
Mhm. But Janney, I think, has the edge because, you know, she's I guess, more visible, not just because of campaigning, but I mean, but she's like everywhere, not only with the TV show Mom, but like it seems every year she's always in at least one or two movies in a supporting role. Whereas Laurie Metcalf, while she certainly has her fair share of film and TV work, she also spends a lot of time on Broadway. So sometimes it's a while before we see her on our screens. But I think Allison Janney, with her being in so many movies and TV shows throughout recent years and throughout her whole career, it's given her a nice showcase for how versatile of an actress she is, because she first came to fame in The West Wing, which is a drama series. She won 4 Emmys for that. Then later on with the TV show Mom, which is a comedy created by Chuck Lorre, the same guy who created The Big Bang Theory and Two and a Half Men, and that's about as anti-West Wing as you can possibly get. And she's won 2 Emmys for her role on Mom. So she's won Emmys for drama, she's won Emmys for comedy, and given the fact that many of those Emmy voters are also SAG voters too, this gives a nice showcase for her, because this probably shows her at both her most dramatic and, I guess you could say, comedic, because I mean her character is an absolutely despicable person, we're like one of the worst mothers ever.
Well,
Like she's the mother from hell. That's basically it. But she's
yeah.
so good, and she spits out these zingers. They're not funny at all, but the way she spits it out, it almost feels like it could be used in a sitcom if it was reworked for how the rest of the scenes would play out. But when the drama hits the fan and she's in there, I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, it's like, it it's stark contrast to like some of her other film roles in recent years, like say The Way Back, where she plays like this comedic drunk.
Mhm. Well, yes, and I should. Well, I guess a few things to that point. Well, not to mention, Janney has won a whole lot of SAG awards, including two individual ones for The West Wing. And while Metcalf, well, hasn't had as many nominations, her only prior nomination to this year was as a member of the ensemble on Desperate Housewives. And well, I mean, I could see that they want to give another SAG award to Allison Janney, or give, or be able to actually acknowledge Metcalf for the first time, as well as the fact that, well, Lady Bird is also up for ensemble, and again, not that it's a requirement for your film to be up for ensemble to win an individual award, but it does help at least. Plus, and I guess I should point out that, well, not to mention, as Tom O'Neill, who's the, I guess, editor in chief of Gold Derby, often says that when it comes to the Oscars, when voting on characters who are bad people, villains to say the least, is usually more of a winking devil, like Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men or Christoph Waltz in Glorious Bastards. They don't usually go for despicable people through and through, like Denzel last year, even though he did win the SAG. But I guess that was mainly based in part on him having never won there before.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting you make the comparison between Allison Janney and I, Tonya, to Denzel Washington in Fences, because her character in I, Tonya makes his character in Fences look like the Pope.
Well, true. Yeah, so true.
Because the worst thing he does is get another woman pregnant, whereas
Mm-hmm.
in this whereas Allison Janney and I, Tonya, she's this physically and emotionally abusive monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
so.
I mean, but we have seen Oscar wins where people just play a straight out psychopath, like Kathy Bates in Misery,
Well, yes.
or
Well,
Heath Ledger for The Dark Knight,
right.
or Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. I never saw him as like a winking devil type. Like you just see him on screen, you're like, ah, because of his, not just the way he looks, but but just the way he carries out his killings.
Well, yeah, but I guess what I mean by winking devil is that you're supposed to be, I guess, in on it with the villain.
Mm, yeah. Or oh, she's kind of similar to, well, not quite similar, but in terms of just unlikable villainry, Louise Fletcher in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So.
mean, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think this race is at this point too close to call, and half the people are going to get this right, half the people are going to get this wrong in their
Hmm.
predictions.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I mentioned in the article I published yesterday was how I guess similar to at last year's Tony race for lead actress in the play, Laurie Metcalf was seen as an early frontrunner early on for Doll's House Part Two, but Laura Linney built momentum with the Critics Awards for Little Foxes. Yet Metcalf prevailed at the Tonys in the end. So, I mean, I don't know if history will repeat itself, but I did at least mention it as a possibility. And again, even though I am predicting Metcalf to win SAG here, I'm not really too confident in it because I know Jenny is within striking distance.
And also another thing that could help her is, I guess, the transformative nature of the performance. Not, and of course, that you have like the makeup and the hairstyling, but not just that, just the feeling that the actor is completely gone and that this other person has taken their place. I think
Well, yes.
voters like to see that happen. And when you watch Allison Janney and I, Tanya, you don't see her. You see this horrible woman that she's playing.
Well, yes, even though that did not help Natalie Portman last year for Jackie Kennedy, but of course that's another conversation entirely. And like I said, Jenny's giving the bigger performance. And of course, as Tom O'Neill often keeps saying, is that in order to win, you got to have the most of something. The loudest performance wins. The more transformative performance wins. The loudest movie wins the sound categories, that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, she fits the bill here. She's very dramatic. She's very, she looks completely different. She oh, I know what her performance is the most similar to, and this performance like swept all the awards. Monique and Precious.
Right.
That's
Who
the that's the best comparison you can make of Allison Janney and I, Tanya in terms of the character and the type of performance they give.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Like I said, I'm not confident on where my predictions stand right now, but we shall see. And I guess now on to outstanding performance by a male actor in a supporting role, and I believe it's
It's your
yeah,
turn to read.
yes, I thought so. The nominees are Steve Carell, Battle of the Sexes; Willem Dafoe, The Florida Project; Woody Harrelson, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri; Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water; Sam Rockwell, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So, what are your rankings?
Okay, so I have Sam Rockwell in first place, Willem Dafoe in second, Richard Jenkins in third, Woody Harrelson in fourth, and Steve Carell in fifth.
Ah, 5 for 5 again. I have those exact same rankings. And again, like supporting actress, this will be a little more telling if Rockwell, well, on where I guess the best supporting actor Oscar race is going, because if Rockwell wins here, it'll probably be a done deal for him. But if Dafoe wins, because he is, I guess, somewhat of a threat to win here because he's a veteran, the veteran actor, and he's worked with a lot of SAG members in the past. And though Florida Project hasn't been performing as well, he's pretty much been the MVP for Florida Project all season long.
Well,
Though,
he's like the only notable actor in the cast. I mean, the rest are
well, yeah.
unknowns, basically.
Mhm. Well, yes. Well, I mean, who knows if he'll end up pulling a Christopher Plummer and just win supporting actor just for entire body of work in a film that was a good showcase for him, like Beginners was for Plummer. But yeah, I think again, given how Three Billboards has really been building tons of momentum, I do have Rockwell up front. So I guess given that Woody Harrelson was able to make the cut, I mean, Rockwell's been lucky he was not up against Harrelson at Globes nor Critics' Choice. But given that Harrelson is in, I don't. I wonder how if Rockwell will still be able to stand out, or if there could be a possibility of vote splitting. Because I mean, I myself am actually happy to see Harrelson recognized here and at BAFTA because he was definitely a standout to me in Three Billboards.
Mhm. I think Rockwell will probably get the most attention, number one, because of the nature of his role. He's playing the absolutely despicable character you love to hate, and voters love those types of characters because it makes you wonder how the hell did they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and plus Sam Rockwell has often been ranked as like one of the most
Underrated
underrated
actors.
actors of his generation. Like people are always he was always being put on greatest actors who've never been nominated for Oscars lists. You
And
know,
that's likely going to change on Tuesday
so
morning.
so it looks like his time has finally come. He's like finally found that right role that will get all the right attention.
Hmm.
I mean, I could see Defoe maybe possibly pulling an upset, you know, and I think because of number one, his career as a whole, and number two, his performance in the Florida Project is a lot different than most of his others. Because in most of his films, he's playing the villain and has a lot of flashy dialogue and does a lot of scenery chewing. But here in the Florida Project, he plays a more subtle, a more restrained character, and a character who's a good person rather than a bad person.
Yes. And I guess maybe Richard Jenkins could also be a threat since he's also in that mold of veteran actor who has a media role in The Shape of Water. But yeah, I guess again, I guess overall, again the whole yes, I like with supporting actress. If Rockwell wins supporting actor, then it is probably looking good for him on Oscar night. But if not, then we might still have a race here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so now
Yeah.
on to the last category on the film side, which is outstanding performance by a stunt ensemble in a motion picture. Read off the nominees.
All right, and the nominees are Baby Driver, Dunkirk, Logan, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Wonder Woman.
Okay, and this is one where I have a super bet placed, and that is I have Dunkirk in first place. I think that's probably I guess, the easiest one to predict here. Well, I guess mainly because, well, it has the most support, I guess, of all five nominees here, that has the most support within the industry. It's even though Dunkirk didn't get anywhere else at SAG, it's still, a lot of, I guess it has the most snob appeal. Though the rest of my rankings, I have Wonder Woman in second, Baby Driver in third, War for the Planet of the Apes in fourth, and Logan in fifth.
I have the same top three, but I have Logan in fourth and War for the Planet of the Apes in fifth.
Oh, how come?
Uh, well, I've just been going off from what I've heard because I haven't. The only two movies I've actually seen on this list are Dunkirk and Baby Driver, but I've heard in War for the Planet of the Apes, there's only like one battle, and it's mostly like a meditative film throughout the rest. Whereas I hear Logan has some, you know, pretty brutal action scenes, given that it's rated R, and they wanted to go full out for this one since this is Hugh Jackman's last time as Wolverine.
Good point. Though I guess I have War for the Planet of the Apes ranked a little higher. I guess given that all the on-set performance capture actors on set, and so I mean I don't know if they do their own stunts or they have stunt people wearing motion capture suits. So yeah. Plus, it's at least a little more fresh into people's minds, given it came out a little later in the year than Logan.
Mm-hmm. But Logan's also been getting like a lot of
Oh,
nominations from precursors and even some of the guilds. Like it got like a Writers Guild nomination, and Patrick Stewart got a Critics' Choice nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
hmm. Yeah, true. And well, yeah, even though, well, of course, the Writers Guild has always had bizarre nominations in the past, like they're probably the only ones that recognize comic superhero movies in the screenplay races.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in any case, that's on the film side. We'll be back soon with our predictions on the TV side.